Alrighty. Do we have a new assignment posted on Google Classroom just yet? Morning, Elijah. Good. So yeah, over on Google Classroom, I'm going to present my screen. We do have a short essay we're going to write, probably about 3 paragraphs again. You'll have today and tomorrow to write it. We'll do some pre-writing and some planning today, as well as some writing today. But shouldn't be too long of an essay. So under Google Classroom, our new assignment is this compare and contrast essay. So let's go ahead and get that opened up. I'd like everybody to get that opened up, please. Thank you, Alex. What is it? Yeah, I wouldn't put that in the box. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to get that opened up. Yeah, I am. Okay, so we have an assignment here. I'm going to go ahead and read through it, and then we're going to re-listen to the 2 poems because they're like a minute long. So we're going to re-listen to them just to remind you what the poems were about. And then we're going to talk about the assignment and do some pre-writing and planning before we get going on it. So we're going to do some comparing, a little bit of contrasting of the 2 poems that we read last week. So we read A Blessing and Predators. 2 different poets, so they're written by different people, described some encounters or some happenings where they interacted with animals, interacted with animals, and they had some observations of animals. So to deepen your understanding of this poem, we're going to do a little bit of comparing. It says then share your insights, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to compare them, and I will read it. Let me zoom in a little bit. Is that enough or a little bit more? That's good. 150 is good. So our assignment today says, write a comparison and contrast essay, compare and contrast, in which you discuss similarities and differences and how the 2 poems present the people and the animals. In your essay, we're going to discuss the following questions. Okay, so the animals themselves, were they tame, wild, or both in the essays? What about the speaker's feelings? Does the speaker feel peaceful, troubled, both? Why do you think that? The titles are very different. What do the titles suggest about the speaker's attitudes? And then conclusions. What new understanding does the speaker of the poem gain when they are observing these animals? So before we start answering these questions, and these questions are all going to be answered in this chart that's below, so you don't need to do it all just yet. We're going to do it all in this chart. Let's read the poems again really quick before we go into it, because do you guys remember them super well? Yeah. So you guys do not have to go open them. I'm just going to have them play for you. So let me get A Blessing opened, and we'll start with that one. Okay, so one of our poems was about a garden and some animals in the garden, and the other one was about some horses in a field. Which one was this one? Based on the picture. The horses in the field. So we're going to go ahead and play this one. I think it starts around a minute or so. We're going to play it from like here. If you're online, this might be a little bit loud. I have the volume turned up all the way. So I'm going to start it in 3, 2, 1, go.
A Blessing by James Wright. Just off the highway to Rochester, Minnesota, twilight bounds softly forth on the grass, and the eyes of those 2 Indian ponies darken with kindness. They have come gladly out of the willows to welcome my friend and me. We step over the barbed wire into the pasture where they have been grazing all day alone. They ripple tensely. They can hardly contain their happiness that we have come. They bow shyly as wet swans. They love each other. There is no loneliness like theirs. At home once more, they begin munching the young tufts of spring in the darkness. I would like to hold the slenderer one in my arms, for she has walked over to me and nuzzled my left hand. She is black and white. Her mane falls wild on her forehead, and the light breeze moves me to caress her long ear, that is delicate as the skin over a girl's wrist. Suddenly I realize that if I stepped out of my body, I would break into blossom.
All right. So there's our first one about the horses. What sort of vibe, what's the tone of this one? Is it mad, sad, calm, happy? Pretty calm, right? Do the speakers seem like they hate or love the animals? Peaceful, they like them, right? So keep that in mind. So this one's more like kind of like a peaceful one, right? I'm gonna leave it open, and let's open up predators. Based on the title, it's a little bit different, right? A blessing, predators. That's something you'll be comparing and contrasting for this one too. Okay, let me get this open. Hold on. All right, so this one is the garden, right? And it had what sort of animals in it? Do you guys remember? Foxes. Yeah, vixens, female foxes. Cats, dogs, right? The things that you might see in a garden. So this one started around there-ish, I think. So I'm going to play this one. Well, this one's a really quick one, too. I'm going to start it in 3, 2, 1.
And events on the environment and literature. The mountains. Current nations. Predators by Linda Hogan. I cannot smell the scent of the cat who slept on this sweater, but do know how the garden swells with old and pungent herb art. In sun, the fox bows to my feline and her good dog friends who rule this land. I hoe and cultivate, find my dead aim in the trust that many tales spun this tract long before I came. The dogs do not understand wild nature. I also was domesticated. Oh, give me strength to watch their sorry looks as a bevy of vixen feed on a much smaller body, not the cat's. But it could be.
Okay, there's that one. We know that this was kind of set in a garden. We have some dogs and cats that are there that are tame. Yeah, tame. They're domesticated. They're in the garden because they kind of live there. And then we have these foxes that are wild that are coming in. Do the foxes respect the animals that live there? I think they do. Because of this one. The fox bows to my feline and her good dog friends who rule this land. Huh? Weren't they what? It could be, yeah. To start, the foxes seem like they respect the dogs and the cats that are there, right? But then it does say later that the vixen, the female foxes, could possibly be eating the cat, which would not be good. So there's kind of like a predatory type of feeling with this poem, right? You don't really feel as calm as you read it. You can see like a little bit of tension in it, right? You can, yes, whatever you feel. So on our assignment here, we have questions about both of the stories. That's these bullet points here. These bullet points are actually down below in a chart instead so that you can compare it with both. So you're answering these questions about both stories. So if you're looking at a blessing, you can type in this box. What animals are presented? So what are the animals in it? And are they wild, tame, or both? You'll do that for both a blessing and predators. The second question is, how does the speaker feel in the presence of those animals? So you'll answer that one for both poems. The third question is, what does the title suggest about the speaker's attitude? So the titles are very different here. We have a blessing and predators. What does that suggest about how the author, the speaker feels? And then finally, we have, at the end of the poem, What does the speaker learn or understand? So what did they gain from this experience with the animals? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys 5 to 10 minutes to just kind of fill out this chart. This is your pre-writing to get your ideas out. So if you have any extra things that you want to write about, you can always type it underneath if you have some extra ideas that you might think about. But go ahead and start just filling out this chart as you go. Okay, so start with that. Go ahead and be working on that, please. Go.
Cranberry.
It is cold outside. That is for sure. I can't make it warmer in here, sorry. I didn't say this, but you guys can open up the stories. You don't have to do it from memory. You can open up the stories and use them, just so you know. Hmm? Well, they're in a pasture, so what do you think? A pasture is like a fenced off area where they get to eat the grass and they stay there.
Okay.
So do you think they're wild or tame? Okay, we'll do about 5 more minutes to have you guys finish up this chart. Or do you need a little bit more time? You can see some of you guys finishing it up, but not everybody. I'll give you, yeah, we'll do about 5 more minutes, and then I'll check back then. If you're done, you can sit tight, hang out. What? Oh, okay. All right. Mhm. How's it going? We need a little bit more time? All right, looks like you guys are finishing up. Let's do about 2 more minutes. Still again, don't find it funny when we joke about that. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our next section here. So we have all of these couple of things that kind of compare and contrast. Can you guys see the differences in the chart between the two poems? You see some differences, some similarities maybe? Yes, no, maybe so? Anyone? I'm gonna take that as a yes. Okay. So underneath that, we have another thing that's highlighted. The highlighted ones are things that I want you guys to absolutely respond to, just to have some ideas before you go into writing. So underneath that chart, we have this respond to these questions. Oh, sorry, let me turn it back on for you. My bad. It says respond to these questions. So there's 2 questions there that I'd like you guys to answer. The first one says, which poem is more positive about the role of animals in the world? So which one gives you more of a positive vibe or a tone where you feel better reading it maybe, or you can see that the person or the speaker cares about animals more, or they think that the animals are doing good in the world versus bad? So explain yourself on that one. And then number 2 here says, which poem conveys or gives you a stronger sense about what the animal's experience is like? So which one gives you more of like the animal's experience than the human's experience? And then explain your answer. Do those 2 questions make sense? Okay. If you're not done with the chart, make sure you're working on the chart. But this is your next part. Respond to these questions. No, I was just looking up some stuff. Okay, so be responding to these questions, please. Oh my God. I'm going to kill this printer.
The principal would get you guys a new pen.
Yeah, I doubt they need a
Again.
Okay, we'll do about 2 more minutes for these questions. Make sure you are explaining. The explanations that you give are going to help you in your writing later if you're explaining yourself.
Why printer? Just say that.
Well,
Open the other room.
work on this. All right. Let me go check on your questions, see how you're doing. Hopefully finishing them up, or the chart. If you're still working on the chart, that is fine as well. Okay. Looking good. So, after you finish up this kind of like pre-writing, just to kind of give yourself some ideas, the next part is just kind of like the drafting, where you're writing everything the first draft, getting it all prepared. The central idea is essentially the main idea of your essay. So I would like us to write at least a 3-paragraph essay. So like maybe 2 differences and 1 similarity. I think these poems are more different than similar this time. Would you guys agree? Yeah. Are you just saying that because I said it? Okay. So in this thesis part, I don't want it to be yellow. Let me get rid of the yellow. Okay. You want to say something along the lines of the 2 poems are different, and then why you think they're different. And for here, I want you to give 2 reasons why you think they're different. Okay. And similar because, and then why you think they're similar, and then give me 1 reason here. Okay, so this is a complete sentence, okay? The 2 poems are different because this and this, and similar because this. So you should have 3 reasons, so you can have a paragraph for each reason. So two paragraphs will be about the differences in the poems, and 1 paragraph will be about the similarity that you found. So start by writing a complete sentence there. The 2 poems are different because blank, and similar because blank. So this is where you want to go up and use maybe your answers to these questions about how this could be a different one. Your chart here can show you where you see some similarities or some differences. So use the chart and the answers to your questions to create your central idea or your thesis statement. Okay? So take a few minutes to work on that part.
Oh no, it's broken now.
How's this going? You guys getting a sentence written here? Going all right? I'm done. Alrighty. So hopefully you guys have somewhat of a central idea here about the two things that you think are different about these poems and the one thing you think is similar about the poems. If you're still working on the chart or anything like that, that's okay. Just keep going. I'm just going to keep going through it because the next part here is just where you kind of start writing. So there's a little paragraph here about choosing the structure and how you want to organize your essay. So it says, decide how you want to organize your essay. Will you discuss one poem before you move on to the second poem? Will you discuss an important idea? So like one difference before you move on to a different difference? The second difference? Or make sure this is an important one. So you're drawing examples from the poems. I'm going to highlight that like blue or something because that's text evidence. You should be using text evidence and ideas from the poems or in your writing in general, or in stories, whatever you're writing about, you should be using text evidence and using quotes or paraphrasing things that you're reading about. So you're going to decide on the main idea that you'll develop in each paragraph. So if you choose, you can write it as one paragraph is about the differences, or one paragraph is about a difference, and then you maybe write the paragraph that's the similarity, and then the second paragraph on differences, or you do difference, similarity, or maybe you do the similarity first, and then the difference. It's however you decide to write your paragraphs. If you would like to do an introduction and a conclusion, you can, but I'm not going to require it. I would just like you to have the 3 paragraphs this time where you're comparing the 2 poems with a difference, and a similarity. If you have an introduction, that's awesome. You don't have to, but if you have one, it's good practice to be writing those introductions as well. Okay, and then it says, consider stating the idea clearly in a topic sentence at the beginning of each paragraph. You want to double check that the main idea of each paragraph supports the central idea of your essay as a whole, as stated in your thesis. So you want to make sure that your paragraphs are about the poems and follow a logical order, and they're not randomly about pigs, because there's no pigs in these poems, right? So make sure you keep it consistent about what the poems are about. And it says, include at least 2 pieces of text evidence to support each main idea. Again, including text evidence, that is a big thing. And then it says, make sure the quotations you choose from the poem strongly support your thesis and main ideas. So again, using phrases or sentences from your poems to support the main idea of what is different and what is similar about the poems. Okay? So then it says in big yellow letters, well, black letters with yellow highlight, write your essay in the space below. Oh my goodness. That's what you guys are going to be working on until 9 o'clock today. You can get rid of the highlight and the underline and the bold. So up here at the top is the highlight color. You can just click none, and that will go away. And then the bold and underline are up here, so you can get rid of that. Indent and start your paragraphs. Okay? Start your paragraphs. Start your paragraphs. Keep in mind that one paragraph, let's do 2 paragraphs, should be about the difference you see. And one paragraph should be about similarity. Okay. So essentially, this is what you're doing for the rest of today and probably tomorrow as well. We're not going to do the whole revising and editing thing on this one. I want you guys to try that on your own, where you write your essay, right? And then just make sure you go back and look for the things that it's asking for. Make sure you spell things correctly, have your grammar correctly, So for today, let's see, it's 8:37. So we got about 20 minutes. I'd like you to be working on this for 20 minutes. And whatever part you're on, whether you're still working on the chart or answering the questions or writing your thesis, or if you're at the actual drafting part where you're writing your essay, wherever you're at, I want you to be working on it for the next 20 minutes. Does this make sense? Do we know what we're working on? Okay. Go ahead and be working on that, please. I'll be here if you have any questions.